And welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles and Don Henderson with you. We're going to continue now in our theme of the night, talking some college football, particularly vintage college football in the southeast part of the country. We're joined tonight by Patrick Garbin. He has a book out called The Georgia Bulldogs Playbook, Inside the Huddle for the Greatest Plays in Bulldogs History. He writes for dogtime.com, and he joined us on the telephone, Patrick Garbin. Patrick, good to talk with you. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Yeah, good to have you back. We'll have you with us tonight. I know last week we wanted to have you on, but thanks for making the time to come back with us tonight. We've been doing a lot of college football talk tonight. We had a guest on earlier talking about Tennessee Volunteers history, and I guess it's not a happy weekend for you because the cocktail party didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been a difficult month for Georgia football. 1-3. In October, and the one win was a 9-6 win over Missouri. So, tough month of October.
Well, you went into this month with high expectations. I know that you had great aspirations. You were going to knock off Alabama. It was going to be, the year the Bulldogs were going to come back, and it just didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, I mean, we were a little favored over Alabama by a little bit, and a lot of people expected that this would kind of be the year. Perhaps that Georgia would, there wouldn't be that game or two where Georgia just, underachieved, if you will. So it was difficult, and that kind of started. What as we talked about, what's been a rough month.
Doug?
The book really tells more of the all-time history, right, of Georgia Bulldogs football. Obviously, it goes back to the great plays in history. You got Herschel Walker in there, and how far back do you go?
It goes all the way back to the beginning. There's a play from the 1890s there, and it's Georgia's greatest plays, as you said, all the way up through the 2014 season. So it's a good collection of all the greatest plays.
Well, Herschel Walker I'm a little bit familiar with because I remember when he came out of school and did play a period of time in the NFL with Philadelphia. So when I was in Philadelphia all my life, what a great player he was, and what a great person.
Yeah, a lot of people, he had a 3-year USFL career prior to getting to the NFL. A lot of people don't realize, Herschel, he's considered perhaps arguably the greatest college player. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that pro career. But if you add up his pro statistics, and we'll throw those 3 years of the USFL in there, he's still professional football's all-time leader in all-purpose yardage. Because as you remember him as an Eagle, he was great out of the backfield, receiving, would run kicks back. So actually, as I like to say, Herschel had quite a college career that's recognized, but he actually had quite a pro career that usually doesn't get recognized as probably it should be.
Right. The Washington Generals just didn't get in fact, the entire league did not get the support they should have gotten. And but you're right. The New York Generals. I mean,
he played for Donald Trump.
Yep, he played for Donald Trump. You're right.
But then he was involved in that trade that built the Cowboys. Right? Cowboys traded him to Minnesota for the draft picks. Wasn't that what happened?
And I think that's what. That's why the Cowboys were able to win 3 Super Bowls, is what they say, because they got all those players. And I think that's what people talk about more than what actually was a good pro career for Herschel, was the fact that he kind of built those Cowboy teams of the early to mid-'90s.
Almost underrated. You're right. That trade that could be sent him to Minnesota, where he kind of played more anonymity as far as national television went, and Vikings weren't that great then. So yeah, he almost gets swept under the rug for his talent because he wasn't on great teams.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to think. I think he only played on in the NFL maybe 2 or 3 playoff teams, and he was in the NFL from, I guess, 86 through 97 or 98. So that's, 11 to 13 years or so. And like I said, I think just 2 or 3 years he played in the playoffs. So that certainly didn't help things as well.
Did you grow up in Georgia territory? We were the young fellow we were talking a little bit ago about Tennessee. It was actually from East Texas who moved down and did the book on Tennessee. Are you from that area?
Oh, right. I'm from Athens. My father was a longtime sociology professor at the University of Georgia. Actually, until fairly recently, he retired. But I always tell a story that in 1981, when I was in first grade, Sanford Stadium essentially increased from 60 to 80,000. And when they did that increase, the faculty, or most of the faculty, at least where my dad was grouped, their option to get tickets went from 2 to 4. So when that happened, that's when I started attending games, and I literally, it was kind of it's kind of ironically, I started going the year after they won the national title in '80. So I missed the great season, but started in '81 and just really, just kind of fell in love with it from there, and it just became a passion of mine.
Well, I went, this is, I guess, 1987, I think it was, whatever it was. I went to the Sportscaster seminar. It was a camp. They had it up in Georgia. I think it was, I forget the name of the college now. Anyway, one of the speakers was the legendary broadcaster for the Dogs, Larry Munson. Now, you're probably too young to remember him, but he was a legend, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was. In fact, Larry wrote before, I got to know him a little bit before he passed in 2011. But when my first book came out in 2007, he wrote the foreword to it. And that's how I got to know Larry just a little bit before he passed.
I mean, he lived and died with the Dogs. You listen to some of those broadcasts. I listened to some on tape and online. I mean, he really was great, but he rooted. I mean, he was an open rooter for the team, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's really hard to compare any announcer to him. He was very much, he'd call himself "we," when broadcasting the team. And, he literally, you kind of, especially as a kid growing up, you literally hung on every word. And even today, when at the stadium, they replay his great calls, and it still gives people goosebumps.
What did he used to say? Hunker down, dogs. Hunker down, dogs. Was that it? Is one of his lines?
There was that. Yeah, hunker down one more time. That was in '82 against Auburn. One more time, being they won in '80 and '81 the SEC championship. And Auburn, with a freshman named Bo Jackson, was coming down the field, and they were trailing by 5. And if Georgia, it was either Georgia was going to win the SEC and win for a national, or play for a national title or not. And he was just hollering at the defense, saying, "Hunker down just one more time." And sure enough, they did, and stopped Auburn on. They turned it over on downs, real toward the end of the game. In fact, that's a play that's in the book, the 4th down play. So,
I was just going to say, give us your of all the plays. What's this take from when you started to attend full time? Which is 81, I think. If you started at 81, what were the top maybe 3 plays that come to mind for you individually?
Well, I'll tell you, one I really remember, these won't be in any particular order, was 2001, Georgia beat Tennessee on a play that actually Larry Munson is also famous for. It was a little fullback pass. Georgia basically found themselves trailing with just, I think it was 30-some-odd seconds left. A freshman quarterback named David Green brought the team down 59 yards and 5 plays, just boom, 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 right down the field. And with 6 seconds left, he found fullback Bron Haynes in the end zone. And what made that special was that not only that Georgia had upset Tennessee, who was nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, but it kind of marked, that was Coach Ripp's first year. It kind of marked the beginning of, I guess, his era. That game, I believe it was the 4th game of the season, so it was, real special win. I think another one was the play I just described. It was 4th and 17, and I think Munson's words were something on the order, guys, I know I don't want to ask you to do this again, you guys, but hunker it down one more time. And Auburn, 4th and 17 from, I think, the 21 of Georgia. Randy Campbell, had a quarterback for Auburn, had a pass broken up by Ronnie Harris and Jeff Sanchez in the end zone, and Munson started hollering that sugar was falling from the sky because thus we were going to go to the Sugar Bowl. And I tell you, another, I'll kind of go a little bit more recent. I tell you, another play that comes to mind is the most recent play actually in the book, and that was, a guy that's doing pretty good in the NFL as a rookie this year named Todd Gurley. Oh, yeah. And I'm being, I'm trying to be humorous when I say pretty good. I think he's at the best start ever, But he, against Clemson, the team we had lost to in 2013, we opened with them in 2014. We're trailing 21-14, and I think this is good to point out because the book contains plays like this, not necessarily game winners or game plays that won championships, but what Gurley's play did, which was a 100-yard kickoff return, it tied the game, it got the crowd back into the game, and they had totally gotten out of it. And so Georgia had tied this game and wound up winning the game, actually 45-21. It totally swung the momentum. This one kickoff return that actually happened halfway between midway through the second quarter. So a lot of the plays in the book, they are obviously game-winning, championship winning type plays, but there's also a few in there that even some diehard Georgia fans I've heard from since, they were like, I never even thought of that play, and there's one or two in there that that I've heard. Don't even remember that play, but yeah, it does seem like it would be a great play. So I think that was one of the neat things about putting the book together. I just didn't want to necessarily rehash old plays that have been mentioned in. It was my 7th book on UGA football, so I always try to be a little different when, obviously, with each book, it's not a lot different, and I wanted to kind of throw some new things in there.
Well, I had an opportunity for several years to work with a former Bulldog quarterback, John Mackler. He coached some minor league football down here. We did some broadcasts as well. He's out in Colorado now, but I'm sure he's going to be very interested in hearing this interview. We'll send him a link to it. But I think he quarterbacked the Bulldogs in the late '60s. John Mackler. I don't know if he's in your history anywhere, any of your books.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What's the last name?
Mackler, Mackler. John Mackler.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm not familiar with the name.
Yeah, he I think it was the late '60s. Then he was in the military, and then I think he might have played college ball after he got out of the military. Then he was drafted by the Redskins, and Vince Lombardi actually drafted him while he was coach of the Redskins. But then Vince unfortunately passed away. But anyway, I'm going to let him know he was very interested in hearing this interview, so I'll pass it along to him.
Okay, well, great. Now,
We'll definitely buy the book. I'm sure of that.
Well, one of the other things is that you've had a tremendous history of great coaches and also going coaches to athletic directors. And did you single out any particular coach for some of the prowess that he had while he was there?
You mean as far as individual coach, or
turning the program at a particular time, or just coached at the right time and was part of a national championship team, or I just thought maybe there were 2 or 3 coaches that came to mind for you that really stood out because they've had a lot of great coaches.
Yeah, well, obviously there's, first and foremost, probably Coach Dooley.
Yep.
Right.
He was here from 64 to 88, 201 wins in 25 seasons.
Right.
6 SEC championships, a national title in 80, and then even after that, he continued in a role as an athletic director up until 2003, 2004. So I've gotten to know Coach pretty well, and he's still I guess at 83 years old, he's still very much around. You see him a lot of game days, and he's still very much a part of the University of Georgia. So I think, if I think if you're talking about one Georgia coach, there are a couple others that might be second, including our current one, Mark Rick, who's, this is 15th year. He has 140 wins. His all-time winning percentage is actually higher than Coach Dooley. He has 2 SEC titles, so he has certainly had a wonderful career. And then Wally Butts, who coached from 39 through 60. In fact, the building I'm standing in now is named after him, the Butts Mayer Building. This is where the media works from when we cover practice. But he won Georgia's other national title. We have a consensus national title in 42 that we claim, and he won that, and he won 4 SEC titles. So you're right. Georgia certainly has just those 3 alone.
We were down there a couple of times. I broadcast all the games for Temple University in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And we made a few trips down between the hedges down there. You did not treat us very well, but it was a lot of fun. And I thought just a minute ago when we were chatting about Tennessee, Temple probably had their greatest weekend this weekend when they played Notre Dame and only lost by 4. It was a great 2 nationally ranked teams playing in Philly. Biggest crowd ever, 69,000 people, and it was an outstanding football game.
Yeah, Temple played here in 81, 83, and 89.
I was there.
I'll be honest with you, and I saw the Notre Dame-Temple game. That Temple team's a little better than those 3 that came down to Athens during the 80s.
They came down for the money in the 80s. But
yeah, I remember them. I remember them well.
Well, we asked our guest wrote the Tennessee Volunteers book. We'll ask you the same thing, Patrick. Anybody going to beat Ohio State, and who do you see as a potential long shot to perhaps win the championship?
I'll tell you, the company I work for, we also cover Clemson football, and although Clemson's defense has been giving up some points here lately, I really think it's a really good team. I think they easily get through the regular season schedule, most likely easily win the ACC, and I think Clemson is if you could call them a long shot. Maybe I'm sure at the beginning of the year most would have called them a long shot, but I think they're a solid team. Their quarterback is actually from about an hour from Athens, Georgia. From Deshaun Watson, he's from Gainesville, Georgia. He's just pretty unbelievable. And if there's a team, Clemson beat Ohio State 2 years ago. Now, granted, this Ohio State team might be a little better than the one from 2 years ago, but I think this Clemson team's a good bit better than the Clemson team that beat that Ohio State team. And I don't know, I really like Clemson. As of now, and I think if they were to play Ohio State, they could have trouble with Michigan State, Michigan, but if they happen to go through, and if they meet Clemson in the playoffs, I'd like the Tigers right now.
Well, I think Les Miles and LSU have a shot too.
I agree. Yeah, that's another group of Tigers that's pretty good too.
Well, the name of the book is the Georgia Bulldogs Playbook, Inside the Huddle for the Greatest Plays in Bulldogs History, again published by our friends over at Triumph Books, and we've been talking with Patrick Garbin today, writes for dogtime.com. And Patrick, great to have you with us, great to have some history about the Bulldogs in Georgia, and hopefully we can do it again. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it so much, guys. It was great talking with you all.
Well, it was a lot of fun, and we get down there to Athens, we'll look you up and say hello.
Definitely. I appreciate it.